Episode 7, the penultimate episode of Season 1 of Ahsoka is finally here. And after the past couple episodes with interesting response, obviously Episode 5, Hayden Christensen returning as Anakin Skywalker for so much of it, a lot of buzz, a lot of noise, and a lot of people loved seeing Hayden back as Anakin. But then with the last episode, the live-action debut of Grand Admiral Thrawn left some people with a little bit to be desired. Well, now Episode 7 is here. More Grand Admiral Thrawn, and Ahsoka finally catches up to them in another galaxy. What are Sabine and Ezra doing? All of these things, all these questions to be answered, and we don't have too much time before this season is over. Let's hop right into it. You know how we do it over on these reviews. We kind of just go through the entire episode, and I give you my thoughts. The way it starts is not with Ahsoka. It's not with Ezra or Sabine in a different galaxy. No, instead, it's back on Coruscant. And I thought we were going to get like an awesome Coruscant shot. This is what we got, which does look decent. I wish we'd got to see a little bit more wider shots of it, but I'll take what I can get when you're looking at Coruscant. And it's Hera appearing in front of a committee. Now, this looks like to be a committee mixed with senators and also people from the New Republic military. I believe this is Admiral Ackbar. They never said his name. He never said any words, but to me, he's got the Admiral rank. He's got the clothes. It looks like Admiral Ackbar to me, but I guess we'll need confirmation from that. Kind of a shame that he let this cocksucker senator just sit there and talk and never intervene at all when Hera is sitting there trying to protect the galaxy from Thrawn. But it is a back and forth between the same senator that was a problem in the second episode all the way back then. He is still a problem now, and basically he's trying to get Hera punished for leading this rogue mission to help Sabine and Ahsoka, and he doesn't believe the report. He doesn't believe that the Purgles are there. He doesn't believe any of this stuff. There's a chance that maybe this guy ends up not just being really stupid and ends up being corrupt in some way. He's very insistent that there's no Imperial threat whatsoever. Mon Mothma, as Chancellor Mon Mothma, is also pretty useless in this entire thing. Hera's basically told you can't act like this is still a rebellion, this is a new republic, and you have to follow orders, while Admiral Ackbar just sits there and does nothing, apparently. And I do think one of the biggest problems with this entire part of Star Wars right here is just how stupid they've made the New Republic. They've made them next level dumb. Obviously, with what's coming in the sequels, because this does connect to the sequels, you have to show why the New Republic just let the First Order rise and, didn't send any help and the Resistance had to go. So obviously there has to be something set up like that, but how fucking retarded the New Republic actually is, and even the people that aren't supposed to be retarded can't do anything because of the system. It really makes the New Republic just seem dumb as shit in every way possible. But just as it looks like Hera might be facing a court-martial for this, we have somebody come to the rescue, and that is C-3PO. I'll play this part for you.
Identification. I do not need to show you identification. I am C-3PO.
And Mon Mothma immediately recognizes C-3PO. Anthony Daniels, he's going to get that paycheck. Another appearance for Anthony Daniels as the voice of C-3PO. And 3PO comes in and says, hey, I'm here on behalf of Senator Leia Organa. She apologizes that she couldn't make it because we couldn't afford, we didn't know if we wanted to do CGI or if that would be insulting. So we had C-3PO come, and he claims that Leia sent Hera on the mission. People kind of know that's bullshit, but there's nothing they can really do about it, and Hera is off the hook. This guy, very upset about this. Senator Xiono, who actually does appear in Resistance, I think. He's the father of one of the main characters in Resistance. That's a different story of another failed show, but Hera gets off the hook, has a little nice moment with 3PO, and Mon Mothma basically says, what are the chances this is actually real? Is Thrawn actually going to return? And Hera's like, well, if he does, we better hope that we have a chance against him. And that's really the start of the episode, and the title called Dreams and Madness is the name of this one. And then it starts off with more Hayden Christensen. Ahsoka is training in her Jedi shuttle, and we have a hologram of Anakin. Now, there's no telling how many of these we can possibly have, because this is Clone Wars era Anakin talking to Ahsoka, saying, hey, I need to train you for more than battle droids. You could run into Dooku. You could run into Grievous. You could run into Asajj Ventress. Asajj Ventress name drop for, Clone Wars fans out there. And so I need to make sure you're ready to go. You need to train as hard as you possibly can to be the warrior I know you can be, Ahsoka. And this leaves open a lot of possibilities. It shows Ahsoka putting essentially this data card that has this recording of Anakin talking to her into a little box that looks like it has a lot more. Who knows how many videos we could get of Clone Wars era Anakin that Ahsoka just happens to be hanging on to at this point. Not really sure, but you do see her going through the motions with the lightsaber and practicing with the lightsaber. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be excited to see Anakin again. Hu Yang walks in and says, hey, I think we're slowing down, or I think we're getting ready to stop because the Purgles are slowing down. And here's Ahsoka. That little box is full of a bunch of data cards. Who knows how many recordings are on there? Ahsoka says, hey, once we get down there, we just got to find Sabine. That's the plan. That's really all I've got. But immediately, once they drop out of hyperspace, they can tell something's not right. And as the Purgle opens its mouth, they find out they're in a massive minefield. Now, where do these mines come from? Did they come from the Chimera? How did they get laid in such a quick fashion? Because you have to imagine that it can't be that long. Ahsoka couldn't have been that far behind. Clearly, it only took Sabine a couple hours to find Ezra. It's not like they've been there forever. But they have an entire minefield laid out for the Purgles because Grand Admiral Thrawn's such a genius. He knew they were coming and he laid mines. So I do have questions where they came from. If they were just the Chimera's entire complement of mines, wouldn't be abnormal necessarily for a standard Imperial Star Destroyer to be carrying mines. But the way they got deployed with the Chimera obviously out of action and sitting there still on the planet, you just sent a couple of fighters up to do it, a couple of shuttles. It's a massive fucking minefield. So there's parts about that just do not make sense to me at all. It wasn't there when they arrived, but it's there now. It's there now that the Purgles are coming, because that was not present before when the hyperspace ring came in. But they get dropped off by the Purgles. Ahsoka's trying to avoid everything, and the Purgles jump back into hyperspace away to escape all of the mines. I'm surprised. I don't know if I saw any die. There's just a bunch of mines exploding against the Purgle. They eventually jump to hyperspace again. But anyway, then Ahsoka decides, hey, we need to make this like Empire Strikes Back. There's now ships in pursuit after they cleared the minefield, and they need to go into the debris field. They're heading toward the ring of the planet, which is made up of Purgle bones, essentially. That's what we've been told. It's a graveyard for old space whales. And I do think, I'm going to address this now and probably later too, Ahsoka's ship takes so many, it's just invulnerable. Like we saw it with a couple turbo laser blasts, like 1 million turbo laser blasts finally get disabled momentarily for about 60 to 90 seconds in one of those episodes, episode 3, whatever it was, when she went outside and did the spacewalk stuff. But it's almost invulnerable. Like it doesn't matter if there's fighters right behind it that are shooting for days and days and days. It just never seems to have an effect. We're going to get into more of that, but they are able to escape. They're getting the debris field and eventually just stop, right? Just stop and hide, just kind of like in the asteroid field for Empire Strikes Back. Certainly a lot of sequences in this entire series that are intended to, hey, remember this in Star Wars, remember this in this movie, remember this in this movie. We're just going to do exactly that, remember? So we had plenty of that. Thrawn is notified that Ahsoka is here and that she's hiding in the debris field. He calls for the Great Mother's help to kind of flush Ahsoka Tano out. And it seems like Thrawn's plan is to try to delay her as much as possible. That's kind of what Thrawn's overall plan is right now. He knows that Ahsoka's unpredictable. He now knows that Ahsoka's master is Anakin Skywalker, and he realizes that if she's anything like her master, she's going to be unpredictable, but she's going to be relentless. So we can't really predict what she's going to do. All we can do is open up the possibilities for her to do kind of what we want her to do and respond based off of that. And so that's what he believes he's doing with Ahsoka. Hu Yang can't find any scans. It's useless. Ahsoka says, I'm going to try to talk to Sabine. But before we get to that point, we do get a moment of Ezra and Sabine. So there was something pretty funny in here. Ezra's like, so let me get this straight, and kind of gives a recap of what Sabine told him about the galaxy. The Empire was defeated. The Emperor died. And Sabine has a line like, that's what people say. Yes, we know this is leading to the sequel trilogy directly. It always has been. I know there's some doubters out there. It always has been. It was always going to happen. It's just they're literally setting it up. But they're with the Nazi. Their houses kind of go into these shells, these little vehicles that they can ride around. And Ezra is trying to get Sabine to tell him, how did you get here and how are we getting home? Sabine just refuses to tell him. I get it. I feel like Ezra would have pushed her at this point to find out a little bit more about what happened and what the actual plan is. They're trying to go for that same kind of relationship they had and sort of that camaraderie and that back and forth that they had in Rebels. To me, it's fallen a little bit short live action. Just gotta be honest with you. Some of the dialogue between them feels like a CW show. That kind of felt like what I was watching this episode was a CW show. That's kind of how the entire thing felt. It turns out that they and the Nazi are being tracked by Shin and Baylan, and also all of those random people that are out there that attacked Sabine last episode. They've teamed up. They're going to try to take down Ezra and Sabine. So there they are. There's the shot of them. I forget what these guys' names are. Keep in mind, Sabine by herself took out like 6 or 7 of these guys just last episode. And it didn't seem like it was that much of an issue for her. But now, apparently, it's just going to be a massive deal for them to take them on. Thrawn calls for the Great Mothers, the Night Sisters, to help him locate Ahsoka in the debris field. As they're doing that, Ahsoka's like, I can find, we don't need any scanners. I have the Force. And she sits back and she calls out for Sabine. She calls out for Sabine just like Leia called out for Luke. And Sabine is able to hear Ahsoka. Even though she thinks she's dead, she's like, oh, I felt something. I felt Ahsoka. I felt something. And that lets Ahsoka know where Sabine is at and where they need to go to. She doesn't need any scanners. She doesn't need any maps. Once again, showing that, yes, Sabine Wren, despite not displaying any talent beforehand, is Force sensitive. And apparently their connection's just that deep that was able to happen. But anyway, after this, they immediately locate Ahsoka, probably because she's using the Force that way. The Night Sisters figure out where she is. They fire on the debris field, but to really no effect because Ahsoka's invulnerable in this thing. She flies out of the debris field, no problem, but still is pursued by several fighters, which we will get to. After that, back on the planet, Baylan and Shin are about to engage, and Baylan says, hey, go kill Ezra, go kill Sabine Wren, go take these people and do it. I have something else. Something else calls to me that I need to do right now, and kind of leaves her with some parting wisdom about being too quick and too impatient for victory will only ensure your defeat. And I like Baylan. I really like Ray Stevenson's portrayal of the character, absolutely. Shin calls in the Stormtrooper reinforcements. The Stormtroopers go, and they are about to meet up with them. And there we have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Maybe we got 10 of these guys. And I still don't remember what they called them in the last episode. They're not mercenaries because that's what Thrawn refers to Baylan and Shin as. But they're just some people that are hanging out on this planet. No idea how they live, no idea how they get around, no idea about their history. They just happen to be here on this planet as well. They're coming to attack the Na'ti and get Ezra and Sabine. The Na'ti, they are primitive, right? We've seen this many times in Star Wars, whether it's the Ewoks against the Empire, whether it's the Gungans against the battle droids, right? These indigenous populations with technologically inferior weaponry that are able to do what they need to do to kind of fend off these other, technologically advanced bad guys. So Ezra and Sabine are in one of these vehicles. Sabine's just shooting with blasters. That's pretty much all she can do at this point in time, and they're just trying to run away. Eventually, the bad guys disable one of the Na'ti, the crab people's vehicles, and Ezra's like, no, we can't leave them, and they gotta circle up. So they circle up, and they all bunker down. They all hide in their things that are apparently impenetrable at this point in time. All the while, Ahsoka is coming to the rescue. Now, keep in mind, there are 3 ships that are following Ahsoka's shuttle, just constantly firing at her. And it's not like she's putting on some crazy evasive maneuvers. She's just kind of flying a little bit lazily, yet somehow they can't shoot her. They can't bring her down. Maybe you could say, oh, well, it's her Jedi training. It's her Jedi flying skills, her Jedi responses, all that shit. You could say that. but she's not going to be the only one piloting for long. Back to the ground, Sabine sees that Shin is leading this party of people. She kind of gives Ezra the lowdown on Shin. Oh, by the way, Dark Jedi or False Jedi, I think is how they're being referred to now. And Sabine and Ezra get out of their vehicle, ready to take it to the enemy. Back to Ahsoka's shuttle. She tells Hu Yang, hey, I got to get out of here, but we're going to do it with you continuing to fly. She gets on the ramp and basically jumps out. Like, these ships, I don't know how they haven't shot down Ahsoka's ship yet, especially once Hu Yang starts flying. But they've been flying around for 15 minutes at this point. Hu Yang's going to fly another 15 minutes, and these stupid fucking fighters cannot shoot this shuttle down. It is insane. It doesn't make any sense. It used to be when there was a situation like this in Star Wars, you had to do one of two things. You either had to run and hide, jump to hyperspace, something like that, or hide like in an asteroid field or debris field like we saw earlier, or you got to destroy the enemy. You can't just sit there and let them be behind you in your weak spot, shooting you for 30 minutes and expect to get away scot-free, unless you're Ahsoka. So Ahsoka does jump out of there. When she jumps out, she finds Baylan Skoll sitting there waiting for her, saying, I'm surprised to see you here, but I can't let you get down there. I got to waste your time, basically. And they have they get set up for another duel. Down on the ground, Sabine tries to give Ezra the lightsaber back. He's like, nah, I'm good, bro. I don't need it. I have the Force. And Ezra does some kind of Force-enhanced martial arts, but I did think looked cool. I had no problem with that, and we've seen Force-enhanced martial arts in Star Wars history before. That's probably what Ezra's been training primarily for the past decade. But he lets Sabine keep his own lightsaber that he gave her, and they start attacking these people. Again, Sabine handled 6 of these guys very easily not that long ago, so it really shouldn't be perceived as that big of a threat, yet it is in this episode. It doesn't last nearly as long as the battle that we saw in episode 4, but you do get a little bit of Baylan and Ahsoka going at it. And after it looks like Ezra and Sabine basically take all these people out, Shin comes up behind Ezra and damn near kills him. But misses, just gets the top of his hair, and he goes toe-to-toe with Shin without a lightsaber and is able to hold her off long enough for Sabine to come over there and finally help him, prevent him from getting killed. There's a little bit of it here. You see him holding back the lightsaber with the Force. And they realize that they now have the upper hand because they have, they now have outnumbered Shin. Well, that's not taking into account all of the Imperial stormtroopers that are about to come here as backup. And somehow Shin then gets the drop on Ezra, even though he should be a much better, much more experienced Force user. She just Force pushes him and he gets knocked into this thing. And then her and Sabine go at it once again. Back on the hill, Ahsoka and Baylan. Baylan says, you can't beat me, and she says, I don't need to. Because Hu Yang, once again being trailed by these 3 fucking starships that cannot shoot down one Jedi shuttle, Hu Yang launches a bunch of, I don't know if it was actually like missiles or chaff or whatever it was, down at the ground to let Ahsoka escape. We'll watch this real quick. It kind of almost looks like chaff to me. But that is enough. Again, these idiots cannot shoot down a droid-piloted shuttle. This is pathetic and doesn't make any sense at all. But that's enough to let Ahsoka escape. And clearly, Baylan still feels like something is out there, like calling to him. Now, back to these guys. The stormtroopers are getting ready to depart, and Thrawn is controlling all of them. He's giving them recommendations. He's telling them what positions to get into. And I did like what they were doing with Thrawn here. And I think that Lars, although he doesn't look anything like Thrawn, which we talked about last time, he sounds enough like Thrawn, and I like what they're having him do in terms of controlling all of the tactics. That's what he should be doing, and that is consistent with his character, even though they've already bastardized this character from the expanded universe. He realizes that they're one mercenary short, though, in this equation, that Baylan is not there, and that could be a problem with all the calculations. Sabine and Ezra then get surrounded by stormtroopers, and, they hesitate. Instead of just blowing them away after Shin says kill them, they hesitate, Ezra tries to defuse the situation. Hey, why don't you take us as prisoners? Hey, why don't you do this? That's enough time for Ahsoka to come in and save the day. And she pretty much just beats Shin's ass, no problem. And that leaves Ezra and Sabine to demolish these stormtroopers. Now, I do want to say something. We thought for a while, and I thought a little bit last week as well, that these stormtroopers were like undead, Night Sister magic, kind of like Marok. And then once they got killed, we're going to kind of see them like evaporate or something. That did not happen in this. There's a lot of stuff out there, a lot of leaks. I usually don't like to talk about leaks when I do these reviews or even reference them because I just want to go based off the episode. There's a lot of stuff that said these are kind of undead stormtroopers. They've got all the Night Sister wrappings around them. That's what a lot of people expected. They didn't like puff or evaporated or anything like that. They just kind of died. So maybe they still are reanimated. We don't know. We don't have enough to go by at this point in time. But Thrawn calls a retreat and says, hey, we're obviously not going to win this, especially not without Balin there. So just pull everybody back. I really kind of consider this a win. And, you know, Morgan Elsbeth says, why do you consider this a win? And Thrawn says, well, we delayed them enough. We distracted them enough that we've got all of the cargo loaded and we're ready to depart. And one of the things he talks about is by sending our enemies so far away, we've ensured that they've been distracted. That would make sense and be, oh, that's his grand plan. If he knew that Ahsoka was on the way, he didn't know that. That didn't get revealed till much later after he made the decision about Sabine in last week's episode when they realized that there was somebody following. So there's this effort to try to be like, oh, that's why he sent Sabine after Ezra, to distract us. But they didn't know about that. That was not something that anyone knew before that point in time in the last episode. So just want to put that out there. And they also didn't do anything to address one of the questions I had from last episode. Why would Thrawn let Ezra live? Maybe they'll do that at some point in the series. They have to eventually. You have to explain why Thrawn would have allowed Ezra to continue to survive, because Ezra is a loose end. Ezra is a threat. Ezra could undo everything just like he did before. So they really have to explain that at some point. And then you get another reunion, this time between Ezra and Ahsoka. But before that, Ahsoka kind of offers Shin, hey, you know, give me your weapon. I can help you. I can save you. Shin just runs away. Ahsoka doesn't let Sabine, you know, like pursue her or anything like that. But now here they are on this planet. Purgle nowhere to be found, but they still do have the Jedi shuttle, and Ahsoka and Ezra embrace. This one I felt a little bit more for than the Sabine Ezra reunion from last week. That was just pathetically bad. But still not too much tug at your heartstrings for this. And that pretty much wraps up the episode. Hu Yang comes down and Ezra says, hey, I think I got a feeling that we're going home. And that's it. That wraps up this episode. Now, for me, I kind of was like meh on this entire episode. It felt like one really long chase scene that lasted like 35 minutes because Ahsoka was being chased, Ezra and Sabine were being chased. You got a little bit of Thrawn and his tactical mind, and I think they did an okay job of that in this. I felt like he felt a little more like Thrawn in this episode than he did in episode 6, even though he still doesn't look like Thrawn or has the presence that Thrawn should have. But now they're left with the reality of, hey, they're sitting there in a Jedi shuttle. They really shouldn't be that far away. We're talking about probably minutes away from the ship. So Thrawn thinks he's bought himself enough time, but they're really only minutes away from the Chimera in Ahsoka's shuttle. What are they going to do in the next episode? I have no fucking idea. Again, started off at Coruscant, which is a little bit interesting, a little C-3PO cameo that people had. Maybe people really enjoyed Anthony Daniels. Overall, it did kind of feel like a CW episode when it came to interactions between Ezra and Sabine. I really do not like their chemistry. I don't think they work together. Pretty much anything involving Sabine in this, I have not really been a fan of for this entire series. But one of the things that drove me more nuts than anything else was that the shuttle, Ahsoka's shuttle, not getting shot down multiple times with enemies in pursuit and just firing away, and sometimes hitting but never doing any damage. It's like, what the fuck is the point? I'm really sick of that in this specific series. They continue to do it, and especially once Hu Yang took over. You could make all the claims you want. Hey, Ahsoka's a Jedi. She has these instincts. That's why she's able to avoid all the fire. Once Hu Yang takes over and it's just a droid flying it, he had 3 fighters trailing him, right behind him, right on his tail for 15 minutes. and they're not able to do shit to him. It's just really fucking dumb. But that was the episode. Still leaving a lot, I think, for the finale. We'll see what takes place in that finale. We got a little bit more of Thrawn in this, and I do think it was portrayed a little bit better. Still not the level of writing that I think is acceptable for a genius intellect character like Grand Admiral Thrawn. This is more a little bit cartoonish, like this entire series has been. I didn't have as many major gripes about this episode as I do about some others, but once again, it was just a really long, extended chase scene, including from enemies that Sabine was able to handle very easily not that long ago, so it didn't seem to constitute that much of a threat. I guess we did get another character who refuses to take back his lightsaber with Ezra, another male character who refused to take it back from a woman. I guess we got to point that out. And also more random cameos of characters very quickly with C-3PO instead of Leia. And then, of course, Admiral. There's no confirmation that it has to be Akbar, though. I don't think it would make any sense for it not to be Akbar. But more very just like shallow cameos in the entire episode as a whole. What are you guys' thoughts on this? Did you like Thrawn a little bit better in this? What did you think of Hayden's hologram appearances? And how many of those do you think they're going to milk out of Hayden and Anakin based on the box that Ahsoka had of all these holograms? Potentially a lot of them involving Anakin Skywalker, and who knows what other characters they could just use in a hologram, in a memory, to put in front of people and, have them clap. Let me know all about it in the comments section below. Smash a like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later.